So me and Tonesia, we met in high school. I remember it like it was like yesterday. So I was like this stud who played basketball, football, and like an all-star athlete. And then Tonesia was like, I mean, had like big glasses and was really looked over in school. So she used to kind of like just wait by my locker a lot. And I used to be like, man, like who is this little girl? So I finally,
Tomorrow's Sunday, right? So the lies can stop.
I think that was a movie I was watching.
Yeah, it was. Or that Martin episode where like Martin was lying on Gina how they met. It's fine. We can start over.
How did we meet?
I recall us meeting because my cousin in school went up to you and said, "My cousin wants your number," but in actuality, I think she wanted your number. It was something shady. Whatever it
Something
was.
shady. I was involved in a shady.
Yeah, you was. And you definitely wasn't a star athlete, but we'll talk about that later.
That hurts.
What?
That hurts.
No. But we definitely connected in high school. Let's just start there. We connected in high school. It doesn't matter how we met. We connected in high school, became friends.
Yes.
You gonna tell the story how I stood you up? We can skip past that
She
too.
did. No, she stood me
Oh
up.
my
So it was like a weekend, and I think I was like, somehow my parents were extremely strict, right? So, but I had some wiggle room some type of way, and usually my wiggle room came through my brother Cartier. So shout out to my brother because he was like the ace, like for real. So I think I was at his house and I had this plan that I was gonna go to the movies. I had bought the tickets, and I was like legit on the highway. Had texted her. I had texted her earlier that day. You responded, but then I texted again. You didn't. So I was like, well, maybe, whatever. And so I was on the highway, on my way to pick her up. And Sadie's obviously very thirsty. But yeah, you finally called me and was like, yeah, gave me some excuse.
I did.
You was at a basketball game.
I was
actually.
not
You were
at a basketball game. My grandfather was sick.
Okay.
Anyway, I did stand him up, and I did own that.
That's sad, but she still
I could have called, and I could have said,
Yeah.
however, I did apologize. He still won't let me live that down, but it's okay.
No. I
Anyway,
still gotta stand her up for something.
fast forward.
Yes.
We became cool again after I graduated college from Langston University.
While I was at K-State.
And we reconnected when I moved back to Kansas City and became friends. We stayed friends for about, almost a year before we decided to actually, exclusively date. So we were cool for a long time. And I feel like we became, just best friends. That's how we built our foundation.
Yeah. So then fast forward to be proposing.
Yeah.
Which you described as like the best day of your life. Am I right?
I mean, it was top 5 for sure. No, I'm just joking. No, it was really a day that I had no idea what was happening. I thought that he was.
Tell them about the few days before though. What happened?
Oh, when I had that breakdown.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna skip past that too.
Okay.
Anyway, you know how girls are. When they're ready to get married and they're like the guy's dragging his feet. I kind of went off on him and had this little meltdown.
We dated for like 6-7 years.
Off and on.
Yes.
Yes, we were off and on,
Yeah,
but we remained friends.
Yes.
The entire time. And so he made me really angry a couple of days before because I kind of tried to look for the ring. Y'all know, girls, y'all know. We went.
Y'all know what?
We go looking for the ring when we can't find it, but we know that it's closed. I couldn't find the ring, right? And so I just had a meltdown. Like, where is this ring? And I know he about to propose, and so I don't like surprises, but he definitely surprised me on the day we got engaged. So I was not expecting it. Totally thought it was just my birthday dinner, and then he got on one knee, and I was really excited about just taking that journey with him. I can't stay away from you too long. Come on, man.
I bow my head.
Even if I do, I'll always come.
Bit of music.
That's all I got.
So, you skipping over so much important detail. So I proposed, right? So I went with my cousin Arnold, like my brother. We always been tight, and we picked out the ring, but the ring was not to her liking. Ring here, it's a ring there. So I have no idea what's going to happen once we do. Hopefully she says yes. I believe she will. She better after all these years, 7 years. So I proposed on all these people, right? Well, I wasn't all these. I'm exaggerating, right? We had a few.
It was like 20 people.
Yeah. So do that, and we go back to your apartment, and you like dudes can tell, right? Like you get a gift, and it's like real, like it's like something wrong. Like what's like why you keep looking at the ring?
Yeah,
like
that ring was so small.
Whoa, for real? That's what we're doing. See, that hurts.
I'm sorry.
That really hurts.
But the thing is that
wow.
no, here's the thing. This sounds so bad, but it's not bad. Here's the thing.
Bad. It sounds ugly.
Here's the thing. It's like I told Justin when we were started ring shopping and talking about marriage. I said, "How do you want to do this? Like, you want to go ring shopping with?" He was like, "Yeah, just give me 3 rings that you really like." And I was like, "Okay." So I picked out 3 rings. This man right here goes and gets me a total opposite ring of what I like, style and everything. So when he gets on one knee, he opens the box, right? I'm thinking it's gonna be the 3 rings that I sent him. No, it wasn't. And so I had to save face because obviously I'm super excited and super happy to, be marrying, the love of my life. But that ring, I was like, oh no, dog. I saved face. I did not say it in front of everybody. But when we got to the apartment, are you tearing up?
No.
I said, yeah, babe, I don't like the ring. He was like, oh, I kind of figured you didn't. Yeah, because you got me.
My spirit, the Lord gave me an option.
because you knew you got me what you wanted me to have. Anyway, his intentions was in the right place because he was like, I was gonna get you this really big set to put it in. You remember you said you were gonna give me the.
It was like But anyway.
The band.
I don't want to, because that's hurting me, so I don't want to keep talking about it. But
so we went back the next day.
No, we didn't. We did. We did together. And I'll let you pick whatever it was. But
no, I have to be the one to wear the ring every day. So anyway, I got what I wanted.
Okay, so we get married. Beautiful wedding day. Mm-hmm. Was there anything about I think the wedding was pretty smooth.
Yeah, whatever happened, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I had an awesome team. I had great friends and bridesmaids that held me down, so I didn't know what was going on.
Bridal party of like 100 people though.
We had a pretty big party, but it was so fun. We had a good time. Yep. It was good. I thought our wedding was perfect.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So so we get married, then we start the journey of marriage, living together, adapting to someone.
Let's pause right there.
Okay.
Y'all, we didn't live together before we got married, obviously.
We didn't. I didn't.
But living together with someone. If anybody knows my husband, y'all know that he is very organized and specific.
Meticulous. Is that what it's called?
I don't know. I was getting ready to say specific about what he likes, right?
Okay.
So our first real argument after living together was probably like a week after living together, and I had washed some towels or something and folded them. Homeboy came in and was like, who folded these towels? Well, I looked around like, who else is in here?
Yeah.
And he said,
I thought maybe her niece that came over and folded the so it just wasn't like, I
wasn't up to his standard.
It wasn't.
Do you know this man refolded all of the towels? When I tell you, I felt my blood go from 0 to 100. And I went off because at that point, I just saw red. It was just like, I can't do this. Like, how am I going to do this for the rest of my life?
What, like the marriage?
Like the marriage.
That was with the
yes.
Over towels? Is that what happened? Okay.
Anyway, we got through that. And here we are, almost 7 years later.
Yeah, but I'll tell you like one thing.
And he still folds the towels. I don't.
But one thing I learned from that I've learned personally, and we've been to like counseling things like that
Hmm.
to help us unpack things, but um, by any means have I been like the perfect husband or anything like that. But I've learned, and I've heard this from couples that have been married a while. It's like there's certain stuff that you just let go,
Hmm.
and you just you don't pick at little things that are going to blow up to big things, and it's like, is it really worth it? So
Hmm.
I didn't know that at first, right? Going in, I didn't. It was kind of like little things, and we would have these blow up kind of arguments
Hmm.
over the littlest stuff. So I just learned how to. It was like, is that really worth it? So
Right.
just kind of let
It's
it go.
picking your battles,
Yeah.
really. It's really just kind of figuring out what's important and what's not. And after I feel like we got past that third or fourth year, I feel like we kind of found our way through. Now we're hitting year 7, and I have learned a lot too. Like, I've also learned that picking your battles, I mean, that's most important. Some things are just not even worth addressing. But I've also learned the significance of communication and talking through stuff. That hasn't been, the easiest thing, but with every relationship, communication just has its, you know, extremes, ups and downs. Hmm.
So this journey of marriage, but of course, right after you get married, biggest question is, when are you gonna have kids?
Yeah.
So you deal with that, and so we kind of started that journey. Well, the first kind of little at that time they were little, but this is Sadie that you keep seeing walking around, and we have Massey. So we got 2 dogs. We got Massey first, and Sadie. So they were our fur babies for a long time. But of course, it's like we're gonna have babies and things like that. And I'll say this that, and I think I told somebody this like a few weeks ago. But you have to be very cautious. I know it's a normal thing for people to do. It's like, hey, we gonna have kids, but you never know what a couple
Couple.
is going through, if they're trying or not, what difficulties they're having, and that's just, my thing is just not a wise thing to do. So
Hmm.
if you are one of the people to do that, stop doing it, please. But if you're one of the people that have been on the opposite end, like us, just kind of, uh, you know, keep your faith is what I would say. But so that was, and I'll let you kind of unpack that some more, and then.
I never thought that infertility would be one of the things that we would have to face in our relationship in general, because it can just destroy a marriage, because you just don't know how to deal with the idea of course, the pressure from people at church and then at work. And I mean, there's so many people with so many questions. They see you happy, so they want to see you with the next step, right, of having a child. And so I remember specifically being at church one day, and one of our members came up to us or came up to me, and was like, "When you gonna have some babies? Like, what's taking so long?" And I could not believe that this person said that. Like, I was literally like kind of like just shook, because I had just come off of a hard weekend. If you ever dealt with infertility in general as a woman, you go through these extreme highs and lows of just um, I guess not feeling enough, right? And so when someone comes to you and they say, when is it gonna happen? What's taking so long? You don't have to. You don't owe that person an explanation. You don't have to go into great detail about why. Actually, you can say nothing and walk away, and that's exactly what I did. I said nothing and walked away, because what I would have said would have been disrespectful. Um, and I feel like I didn't want to educate that person in that moment, because I feel like it just wasn't worth it for me. But you catch yourself in these moments of having to unpack it and explain yourself, and it's so exhausting. And so, year after year, holiday after holiday, I think it just became more and more pressure, and more depressing at times to even walk through that. So I knew how I was feeling, but men handle things totally different. And I know Justin was trying to be present for me and trying to be strong for me. He would see me break down. He would see me go through my emotions. And so it was hard, because it's like I cannot put that on him, because I know he's feeling what he's feeling too. And so at one point, I just got to a place where I was just like, you know what? Like, we're blessed beyond measure. We were successful in our careers. We were successful in our lives. Our marriage was thriving. And I got to a place where I was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm okay with that. I'm content with just literally living my life, being happy with my husband, traveling the world, and building my business. I had got to that place because I had been so exhausted for so long. And that's when, boom.
Yeah, so
It
I
happened.
think, like from my end, yeah, she's right. I'm not just in general, I didn't want to, I was careful not to express
Hmm.
kind of my frustration or my feelings, because I didn't want to add that on or make her feel like, well, I need to be able to have a baby for my husband. I need to do this, and so I did do that. But it's the first time I'm even, I don't. So the first time I'm even kind of talking about this, but there was like a lot of times I would be on my way home from work that I would just kind of circle around a little bit because it would hit me going home sometimes, and I would cry. I'm like, I claim not to be emotional, but I'm very emotional in private. I just make sure I do it like one on one when I'm with myself, but I would do that, and it was a point where I just got kind of numb a little bit, to be honest with you, because I was frustrated. I remember talking to my parents and just kind of venting about it, and I was like, am I being punished for something, or did I was just trying to make sense of it, because it really didn't. I'm this guy that had I had this mentoring program, so I'm helping young guys out, and I'm doing this. And I was like, I know I'm not a bad person. I've not always made the best decisions, but I was like, I know I'm not a horrible person. So I'm like, is this some type of punishment for me, or like, what is it? And they were, of course, being there, they helped me kind of unpack that a little bit, and was like, nah, this is not how that works, and it's not that. So I'm not going to pretend like I had this kind of big faith shoulders, and I was like, God, for a minute it was just a frustration, and then like kind of like the same thing my wife said. I just got kind of tired, and it was just kind of emotionally tired, and really it was just kind of a recap on kind of my life, and God being faithful in everything, and me not understanding everything, but still trusting that God knows the outcome of what it's supposed to be. And I just kind of rested in that after a while, because I was just too tired to fight anymore. And so when you don't, and I didn't want to, not to say I could not, but I didn't want to I felt like I was unloaded on my wife. So that probably was not right, but I just didn't want to unload that on her, and then she's thinking like, well, he's feeling this way, so I just kind of kept it to myself. But it was really draining, and I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, there's nothing I can do, so God, I'm gonna trust you. You know what I mean? That's what I can, and I just kind of honestly, I rested in that. I was like, whatever the outcome is, I said, you know it, you know our heart, you know what my desires are. So not to say you're going to meet that, but just help me. Like, I'm gonna take this journey with you, but just help me, help me through this journey. I don't get it. Like, honestly, it's like I don't get it, but just kind of help us through it. I guess if this is what you're going to have us walk through, then help us through it.
Right. I think you said something like a key word, which was rest. I rested in that because that was one of the biggest words that I held on to when walking through infertility, is because there was nothing you can do when God is working, and when he has a plan, and you know that it's going to work out, but it's just like, I got to rest because I can't make it happen in our own power. I remember we tried the infertility treatments, and that failed, which was horrible because it failed right around Christmas time. You remember that? We got so excited. We got our hopes up. I think we were like year 3 or 4 into our marriage, and we spent almost a down payment on the house to make this happen. And we were excited because we were like, we're going to, tell our family. We're going to make the announcement. We had just had all these plans in our mind. And boom, it fell through. And so I think at that moment, of that soul-crushing moment, I just knew that I had to rest. And I couldn't do anything more. And I think that's what God was really wanting me to do in the first place, was take the focus off of trying to make it happen in my own way, and really just allow him to do what he was going to do. And so one of the things you said is that you were a mentor, you were giving back, and you gave your time, you were a good person and all this stuff, you paid your tithes, all that, and you're still not getting your heart's desire. I remember thinking the very same thing because I do social work and therapy, and I remember a lot of the clients that I was working with was having children that they didn't want, or I was working with children that had parents that weren't in their lives. And I could remember thinking like, Lord, why are you putting me in these positions to work with people who obviously don't want their children, or they are abandoning them and neglecting them, or children that are out here without parents? What can we do? So after the infertility treatment failed, I was still trying to rest. However, I felt like I needed to be working, because you're always taught faith without works is dead. So I'm thinking I got to be doing something. So I bought the idea to my husband, like, let's just foster. Remember that? Mm-hmm. So we went through the foster care process, and we got all the way to the end, went through with it, and then decided no. I did not have any peace about it. And my husband knows when I don't have peace about something, we're just not gonna do it. It's just not gonna work for us. And so I just didn't have peace about it. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. I felt like we would get extremely attached in a situation, and then that child be ripped out of our arms, and we would be, back devastated again. And so I just said, you know what, babe, we just need to let's just stop. Let's do nothing. Let's just trust God, and whatever happens, happens. And so that's when probably a year and a half went by, and Justin said, why don't we look into adoption? And I was like, no, we've already looked into that. And he was like, no, I feel like we really need to pursue adoption. And I said, it's expensive, but let's try. So January of 2020, I remember this like it was yesterday. It was probably the second or third day into the new year. We went to go visit an adoption agency, and we walked out of there after having a meeting feeling completely defeated. We both got in the car, looked at each other, and said, we can't do that. Because they were like, oh, it's going to be like $20,000 and it's no guarantee that she'll get a baby. And we're like, what? That's unrealistic. We can't do that. We left there. I think we rode in the car home quiet, right? Very quiet. Because now we were thinking, okay, our options are gone. Like, we don't even have any more options. We tried the IVF. We tried, pursuing adoption, foster care. Nothing was just working. And so that was just, it was just one of those moments when I was just like, okay, God, it is what it is. Like, I let go completely and I'm done. January 7th, my best friend passed away. I went into this grief, healing process. We didn't even talk about a baby because it just wasn't the time. I'm trying to heal. My husband's trying to help me get through the process. We're, trying to buy a new home. We just had so many different things going on at one time. And I remember getting a phone call like 10 o'clock at night, and it was someone that I personally knew, and they were like, hey, I know someone, and if you're interested, you guys could have a baby. And I'm like, what? Like, I just couldn't wrap my mind. I'm like, what? Wait, huh? Like, what are you talking about? And so she broke it down to me. We had the conversation, and we'll save the details for another, that deserves a whole video by itself, but we're parents now. We have Harper. And so that just goes to show you that, like my husband said, the word rest. When you rest, truly rest in God, and you're not doing anything, and you're really just trusting that whatever is going to be is going to be, whatever you're going to work out, whatever plan you have, I trust. That's when he starts to bring things to life. That's when it starts to make sense. When you're going through a trial or you're walking through a valley, you're like, none of this makes sense. This just feels crazy. It feels wrong. I feel like I'm being punished. You go through all these different emotions. And then all of a sudden, the pieces of the puzzle fall together and everything starts to make sense. Is that how it felt for you? Harper's here. Now, have we gone through any of those other situations? Have we had our own baby? Have IVF worked? Have we adopted a child before we got Harper? We wouldn't have needed Harper, right? Because we would have had our child. But now that Harper's here, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think in anything, I mean, you can use a sports analogy or anything, but it's like that weight of, what you feel has been promised, and the wait for it and going through all of that. But it's just kind of amazing, like once you have the promise in hand,
right,
it kind of, the wait makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so, but it's not until the promise that you make, so while it doesn't make it any easier while you're going through it, but it just makes it that more amazing to say that we were able to rest in the promise or in the faith and the trusting. And I think for me, like, the trust that, like, if it's not this way, then it's not meant to be this way. But right, I trust your outcome, even though I don't agree with it. But I trust it and walk you through that process. But then to see the flip side of honestly what he was working on all along, and we didn't know it, but we took this process for the simple fact of maybe being able to tell the story. But for whatever reason it's worth, maybe we don't know what this is worth 10 years from now, right, 20, but we trust the outcomes of God. And I just think it's amazing for me in my own personal walk that it's like, we went through this back and forth, but right, your promise. This is like the first time, you're raised. I was raised in a church, so you're raised hearing about things, kind of, little things here and there. But this was truly kind of one of those big things for me of a personal walk, but God having His promise on that other end, and it kind of clicking with me, like, trusting Him is everything.
But if you think about it, baby, you think about like all the years when we've tried to have children, and you know, and he would send people all the time. I started counting because God told me to. He's like, start counting, just so that he could remind me that he had me on his mind. But I remember specifically the first person to like speak that into our lives that we were gonna have a child was Elder Henderson, and he came to you. And remember, you came to me and said, Elder Henderson said he's seen you pregnant in his dreams. From there, it started a ripple effect. It was 17 people, this can be included in the next video, 17 people along the way that would come to me and say, specifically, or my husband, and say, I don't want to scare you, is how they would start it off, but I saw your wife, or I saw you pregnant in my dream. And I remember having a client in October of 2019, she was a brand new client, who sat in my chair, and she was like, we're just having a random conversation, and at the end of our conversation, she said, I really don't know your story. I don't know you personally, but I feel inclined to tell you that I feel like, you know, everything's gonna be okay, and I feel like I see you with a daughter. Like I had a dream that you were gonna have a daughter, and I was like, okay. You know, when somebody speaks into your life that you don't personally know, you kind of take it with a grain of salt, and you're like, okay, like it's not mystical, but it's just like, I take what you say, and I'm gonna put that in my pocket. But literally after we announced that Harper was born, she sent me a message and said, do you remember this conversation? And I told you that I seen you pregnant with a little girl. And so those moments in time, is like, even though we don't necessarily actually see the bigger picture, we don't see the promise manifest in front of us, God will always send like little snapshots or people or somebody to remind you, one, that he hasn't forgotten you, and two, that there's always been a plan. And now when I play with Harper, when I hold Harper, sometimes I just stare at her and I look at her and I'm like, you were always meant to be a part of this. This is just a reminder to anybody out there just kind of questioning like where you are in your walk, or what you believe, or is this real, or miracles happen every single day. You just have to be mindful of it. You have to be open to it. And you have to just trust the journey. It's not gonna make sense, but eventually it will.
So yeah, I mean that's a little bit of our journey, kind of an overview of a snapshot of that. But hopefully you enjoyed it. If somebody's watching, not if. We know when you're watching this, those people, you right there. Hopefully you've enjoyed the story. But hopefully we did this for it to ultimately bless somebody, which is the goal. And hopefully you keep the faith. If there's a couple that's watching it, just kind of hold to the promise that you know. And you may not know how, but trust the promise that it is. So don't focus on the how, just focus on the fact that it is, and that's God's promise. So until next time, please, I'll let you know.